All right. Getting ready for today's show. Mic check, mic check.
There we go. You hear me all right?
I got you.
Perfect.
All right, what's going on, everyone? On today's show, we're going to be talking about how to build a more profitable sphere that helps you close more deals with less effort. First of all, ring the bell for more of this type of helpful content. If you want helpful tips and tactics from the experts on how you can grow your real estate business fast and without expensive advertising. So make sure to hit subscribe and the like button for more of this kind of content in the future. I'm your host, James. And I'm joined today by the real estate growth hacker himself, Zach Hammer. Say what's up, Zach.
How's it going, everyone?
Right on. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about how to build a profitable sphere that helps you close more deals with less effort, and really how to do that intentionally. And so, what that is, like, really, we're talking about your sphere. That's your sphere of influence. It's one of your easiest places to go and find deals because those are warm connections, right? So those are people that are in your sphere. In real estate, the long-term goal is really to build that sphere so that it's to a point of, a healthy point to where it's sort of that, come and list for me a database, right? Like they just remember you and recall you. And so, often this sphere is built very accidentally. Maybe, you're kind of looking at, enviously maybe at another person for their circumstances or surroundings that they're plugged in, but you could do this in other ways. You can network. And so we're going to talk about today really how to be intentional, where are the places that you can go out and build a successful sphere that's going to be profitable for you over the long run. So really, let's go ahead and kick off here. First of all, Zach, why don't we talk about a little bit about your sphere of influence? Let's talk about what is the sphere, what does that consist of, just for everybody, so we're on the same page.
Perfect. Yeah. So your sphere of influence, for anybody who isn't aware, it's that circle of people that know you, right? It's your friends, your family, past clients, acquaintances, right? Just think about it, the people essentially that if you gave them a call or if you saw them in person, they'd recognize you, they know who you are, and so you don't, like, with that group of people, you generally don't have to get through that process of, hey, who is this guy, right? Like, they know who you are. So everything else kind of comes easier in terms of, potentially being ready to work with you. They probably already trust you a little bit more than the average person. So yeah, that's who your sphere of influence is. It's friends, family, acquaintances, and very specifically, it's always important to remember this. Your past clients definitely fall into that group as well.
Right. And so you're building that sphere, that database of contacts, that Rolodex of past clients that
Right.
are likely, going forward.
The audio just went weird, James. Yeah, audio sounds really robotic. I don't think you're coming through right now, man. I can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you, man. Went super robot-y.
Any better?
There we go. Let's run with that. I can hear you now at least. So yeah, no, this is a lot better. This is a lot better. This is good.
Okay, hold on. Let me flip it back.
Yeah, no, still that's robot-y again. Well, folks, while James is having some issues with his audio, we'll go ahead and hang out for just a second. So yeah, if you happen to be watching live with us, feel free to drop into the comments, into the chat. I believe we're able to see those. Feel free, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts on anything that we're saying, feel free to drop that in. James, let's see. I think you
I
might
think
be
I'm
back. I
back.
think you might.
I think I'm
Yeah, there we
back.
go.
Yeah. Okay. If that happens again, I'll just hop out and hop back. So yeah, I think a good thing for anyone who's tuning in live. We are recording this, so then if something like that happens, we can edit it out in the next version. But well, thanks for tuning in live and bearing with us through those hiccups. As
Right,
you're tuning in, if you're on YouTube, I know it's maybe a little harder to comment there, but if you could give us a subscribe and a like, that way you'll see this comment more in the future, or this content more in the future. So let's jump right
right,
back. We were talking about why this is important, why it's important for you to build a sphere intentionally, right? And when
right,
done right and done intentionally right, then your real estate business gets really nice over time. And we see this with agents who have repeatedly deployed and cared for, deployed strategies to both grow their database and then care for it on the
right,
back end, right? So really, like, what we're going to get into today is how, like, some of the do's and don'ts
right,
for what would classify as a good method for growing your sphere. So let's go ahead and
right,
pull up one of the first do's and don'ts is we don't really want to use an expensive strategy, right?
right.
So right off, Zach, you want to talk about like what that looks like? Obviously, there's a lot of options to go out and network. So what would those be? What would your best recommendations be there?
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to, again, especially since we're looking at building our sphere from including past clients, any way that gets you clients technically builds your sphere out, right? Like, any strategy that gets you a client also builds your sphere. And so when we're talking about how to build a sphere quickly and how to make it as profitable as possible, if that is your specific goal and what you're looking to do, we really recommend against leaning too hard into strategies that cost a lot of money. Spending a lot on Facebook leads, or maybe in Zillow, or some of those common places where you can dump a bunch of cash and you'll get, like, you could generate business. Those ways work, but the the thing that ends up happening is that you're spending a lot of cash in order to make those connections. So especially if you're looking to build your sphere, effectively, we generally like to look for those methods that you can do for free, that you can do simply, that you can that you can leverage even if you don't have a bunch of money to spend. So things that fit into that sort of zone. So on the expensive side, we've got like Zillow and Facebook ads, and doing even like direct mail, that kind of stuff. On our inexpensive side, for building our sphere, we've got like being involved at a like at your church, at with hobbies, being involved at the golf course, that kind of thing. But really, our favorite, and you're gonna find a trend here. Our favorite for all of these is definitely open houses, right? Because you can get out, you could do an open house, you start getting those people in, start making those connections, and it doesn't have to cost you nearly anything to run the open house. So yeah, avoiding those expenses, is definitely an important part for sure. Yeah, it looks like James popped out again. So while he's out, I did want to dive into a little bit of some of the other reasons for why this is important. So normally your sphere, it happens just based on like your life circumstances, right? So you the luck of the draw for who your parents are, right? Like what you were born into, or maybe where you grew up, right? So people generally, the people that they know, the people that are their friends, are often very similar to themselves, right? That's kind of the nature of how humans seem to collect, right? One of the things that people say, James, and I know that you've heard this, is that your income, and basically like your life's path, is going to be the average of the five people that the five people that you know best, like your five best friends. Your income is probably the average of them. So similarly, if you sort of come up in this world in a specific area, or with a certain group of friends, but you know that you want to do luxury deals. You want to be to the top end of the market and be able to rock that with your sphere. Then you got to be able to be really intentional about who you're adding to your sphere so that you have those opportunities come down the line, right?
Right.
And so yeah, so what I was doing there, by the way, I dove back into the why when you popped
Yeah.
out for a second, so I figured I'd continue that for a second. And actually, real quick, before we continue with the do's and don'ts, there's one thing that I wanted. You have a really great story about this as well. So the one of the big whys is the is just your general life circumstances. But another thing that happens is that people move, right? Like you
Right.
may have built up a really successful business in one area. You may have developed a really successful sphere in one area, but maybe you got to move to a completely different part of the country where you don't know anybody, right? You don't have any connections. You don't have essentially a sphere that could do business in your local market.
Right.
You want to talk about that concept a bit, and how why it's so important to be able to think about building your sphere, and kind of how to think about that.
Yeah, it's sort of something that was born out of direct experience with agents who are moving, and think about, like, in the last year how much disruption and sort of
Right,
people are being displaced. And so we've got agents who are new in markets. You may be listening to this show now and you're new in a market and you don't know
right,
how, or you're nervous about talking to somebody next to you at Starbucks, but you're being told to literally, as an agent, just open up yourself to every opportunity because it's potential business.
right,
And so basically having to start from scratch really gets
right,
you to start thinking about, okay, if I had to do this as an agent who's been doing it for 15 years, if I had to do this over again, I'm not the agent that's been doing this for 15 years, by the way, but
right,
the agents who've been doing this, if they were to pull back and say, if I had to start all over again, then I would do these very few activities, right? And the reason for that is because the other activities, like, I tried them all and they kind of wasted my time. Whereas this one activity, specifically, allows me to grow my sphere in an intentional way without having to. I mean, I can still do all the other stuff. I can still go to the church. I can still
right,
do the meet and greets. I can still do the gathering places, and I can still be open and out there. And our agents that we're working with do that, right? But this
right.
gives you more of a stream of events, if you will, that you're able to promote, and so it gives you something to talk about of substance aside from, like, I'm just doing deals all the time. Like, you know,
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah.
yeah,
And really, those, I mean, those are the key the key reasons why, right? So you've got, maybe your life circumstances have just been at the point where your friends, your family, they're going to be great people. I'm sure you're going to love them. You're going to continue to love them, and you don't want to get rid of them by any means. But as you start growing your sphere and start looking to maximize the profitability of the kind of deals that you could do from those people who already know, like, and trust you, that's where we look at getting intentional about who are the people that we're bringing into our world, who are the people that we're building these relationships with, and so that that way, the more you work at this process, the more that you build your sphere, and the more that you're intentional about it, the easier your real estate business gets, right? So that's
right,
part of what's cool. So many real estate agents get so focused on the next tactic and shiny object and whatnot, that they just, it's like a hamster wheel. They just keep spinning and spinning and spinning, feeling like they're not getting anywhere. And so by focusing on building out your sphere, nurturing it properly, working it properly, and really making sure that the people that know, like, and trust you are also able to do those deals that are going to keep you profitable as well. They own the higher end homes. They're in those areas that that are more profitable for you. It's a great way to really make sure that the effort you put in today not only pays off today, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but also really sets you up long term for the future, so that your business gets easier and easier and easier the longer you're in it. So
right,
yeah. Anyway, those are some of the key reasons why.
right. So we're kind of segueing into the point regarding, like, having to, having the ability to choose the price point
Right.
in terms of growing your sphere. So this is a big one. So if you're deploying a strategy, whatever
Right.
that strategy is, it should let you choose the sphere. It should let you choose your price point in terms of what the listing opportunities and the buying opportunities are. So let's talk about
Right.
that, Zach. How would obviously we're leading the conversation here to the solution being an open house, but how else could we look
Right.
at this?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways that real estate agents do business. Really getting started, most agents really do a lot of their business just out of their sphere, right? And so if you're doing business out of who your sphere already is, essentially it's your life up to this point that's determined the price point of the deals that you're going to be doing, right? Again, your income is the average of the 5 people that you know. So similarly, they probably own, similar cars, similar houses, they're in similar work, they have similar beliefs about the world, right? So very likely the people that you know are very similar to yourself. So whoever you are right now is likely the price point that you'd be able to do business, if you're doing, if you're starting right now just off of
Right.
doing business with your sphere currently, right? And for some people that's great, right? Some people come out of the, come into this with they're already rubbing shoulders with the luxury end of the market, and they're already doing those high price deals. And so hey, like for those people, great. You can always still grow that further, but but most of us are often coming from maybe middle class to maybe even some agents come into this business out of poverty, right? So it's very, there's very often these cases where you want to be able to say, hey, I don't want to be beholden to my sphere in order to determine what my price point is. So I want to choose my price point. I want to start influencing my sphere so that price point rises. But further, other marketing methods, and I know you could speak to this as well, because you're, with your experience with Facebook ads and marketing automation and whatnot. Maybe you could speak to kind of what sort of deals you might attract on average, using something like Facebook ads, or maybe even promoting on Craigslist, et cetera. Actually, it looks like James just dropped out there, so I'll go ahead and continue. But so yeah, when you're looking at something like Facebook ads, or Craigslist, and I'll go ahead and let James take over. So yeah, when you're looking at Facebook ads, Craigslist, that sort of idea, what sort of price point do you think people could normally expect, James?
Yeah, you're looking at a volume game whenever you're playing on digital ads and trying to generate leads from any digital platform, just because you're really
Right,
competing with the billions of dollars of budget being poured in from the big dogs, right? So we
right.
want to stay, I mean, it's
Well,
okay to, yeah.
and specifically when you're running those strategies, are you normally getting the high end of the market, or where are you getting price point in terms of running those strategies? The kinds of leads, the kind of deals that you do attract there. Where are you getting sort of in that price point range?
It seems to be kind of a wide, swath of the market. I would say it's the more first-time buyers that you're going to get, who
Right,
are on the platform and browsing that way.
right,
Whereas the more of the buyers who are like luxury buyers are out there, and they're more inclined to work with people that they know and have met in person, right? So we've
right,
just learned and have started to build strategies and systems around deploying an event-based strategy where you can get people to come and meet in person, because
right,
then you cut in front of the line, because 3 and 4 people will work with the first agent they literally shake hands with. Then you're
right,
cutting in front of the line and leveraging that budget that the big dogs are spending to your favor, because
right,
it's really hard. Like if you've ever done or run any campaign to try to convert a lead online, it's possible, but it is
right,
not also very easy. It's very difficult because like you've done it before, then like you've gotten shouted at, like, well, but you just filled out a form asking for me. So
right.
that's just the nature of it. If somebody walks into like an open house, that's perceived as your place of business, and they're there for a very specific reason. So it's
Right.
a
Well,
much more natural environment.
and specifically in terms of price point, I mean, like it's
Yeah.
when you step back and think about it, it's fairly obvious, right? When you're running Facebook ads, when you're running these sort of mass appeal, strategies where you just sort of have to hit a wide swath of the market, sure, you will get a handful of those higher end deals if you do it long enough, if you work it long enough. But most of the people that you're going to be attracting are going to be whatever the average is, right? Whatever the
Right.
average is in your market. And further, I've actually seen this as well. It's not like you mentioned, it's not just the average. It actually tends to be a few steps below the average, right? The kind
Yeah.
of, because you're getting a really wide swath, and the people who are to the top end of the market often aren't looking at places like Facebook, aren't looking at those places in order to find the homes, right? They're working with a professional, if
Yeah.
they're working with anybody by now, right?
Right.
And so yeah, so when you're looking at choosing your price point as a thing that's important in terms of building your sphere, some of the traditional digital methods, it's just harder to choose at least a high end price point. It may, hey, if you're coming out of a world where everybody that you know is renting and has no plans, intentions, or ability right now to buy homes, then shoot, like you might be able to essentially increase the profitability of your sphere even with something like Facebook ads, right? Because it's that group of people that is buying homes at least. But if we really want to maximize and really want to double down on being able to, stretch the average price point that people in our sphere are going to be doing deals, then what we want to do is we want to start connecting with and placing ourselves into relationships with people who are doing those deals at the high end, right? Like that's the idea. And so there's a number of ways that you can do this, that you could choose to do this, right? The way that you want to think about this is where do these people naturally show up, where are these people already, right? So like maybe there's a really nice country club in your area, and you can get involved at that country club, and that the majority of the people who are there that are involved there have more money, and so they're likely buying those higher end homes. You can basically you could think through, where are the places where the people who I'd like to be in my sphere, where are they currently? And you know what, one of the easiest ways to find the group of people that are doing deals and going to do deals at the price point that you're looking at is to do an open house in the neighborhoods that you want to be doing deals in, right? Like that's a great
Right.
way to be able to choose that price point, because you could say, hey, I want more people who are ready, willing, and interested in buying a home at this price point. Well, if you
Right.
do an open house at a home that's that price point, you're going to get to know the neighbors. You're going to get to know the people who are interested in buying at that price point, and you start building your sphere by choosing that price point and choosing where you're going to be. So yeah, it's
Right.
that's the key point though, is that you want to be able to do methods that let you push the envelope and start building that sphere to the top end, so that you can make sure that it's as profitable as possible for you.
Right. And I think that really dovetails nicely into the next point about building relationships
Right.
quickly, and then putting an emphasis on that relationship component, because it's not, this is what the
Right.
benefit and advantage of getting that FaceTime with someone, really comes down to. It's like you're able to shortcut the process of, creating that relationship of trust, right? And
Right.
building that sort of know like and trust factor that's needed for someone to make one of the biggest transactions potentially of their life, or one of few transactions, that you can help, if you do it right the first time. So
Exactly.
those relationships are so key, right? And getting behind people's why whenever they're,
Right.
the quickest way to do that is through a conversation, right? So how we do that, really, it's in a variety of ways, but getting, not treating people like they're part of your database, like they're getting
Right.
a newsletter, just a newsletter follow up, but they're actually getting real follow up from you, text messages, and sort of, that you're keeping tabs on their needs, and making sure that you're showing that you're tuned into uh, what it is that makes them tick, right? So how do we do
Right.
that, Zach? And in terms of building relationships quickly, what's the difference in how we do that normally versus how we should be thinking about that?
Yeah. So one of the key things that I like to think about for this is, they like, I forget the exact numbers, but I'm sure James, you especially have probably heard, there's like a layout of how much communication happens at different levels of like what's available information rise, right? So there's like the words themselves, and that's responsible for, let's say, like 10% of the communication, right? But then you have tone of voice, right? You have the actual audio inflection of your voice. So if somebody could hear what you're saying and they're not just reading what you're saying, the amount of information that's communicated goes from 10 to like let's say 20 to 30%, right? Well, now if
Right.
they can, if they have the words, the tone of voice, and they could see your face, right? Like the level of information goes up even more, right? And similarly, if you're there in person and you've got like that physical presence, the full body language, they can see everything that's going on, and there's a whole lot of like it's drastically more communication that's happening in that same amount of space. And so when we're looking at how do we build relationships quickly, that's one of the easiest things that I like to think about, right? Is that you're always in a process, you're always sort of on the road to getting to that in-person interaction, right? And so when we're looking for methods that allow us to build our sphere quickly, allow us to generate those relationships quickly, really, like the key metric that I'm looking at is how much time and effort do I have to put in before I get the opportunity to be in person with that person, right? And so on one end of the spectrum, James, maybe you could speak to this. What amount of time and effort does it take if you're running, Facebook ads, if you're generating more of that standard, internet marketing kind of lead? How much time does it take before you actually get to that in-person, interaction?
Yeah, that's a lot longer tail interaction whenever you're doing the internet, like, follow-up game, because a lot of times you'll try the first couple of times or 5 or 7 times to get through, and then
Right,
they'll fall off and they'll go into a greater database. And that database, the whole methodology is to build that database to a large number because it's all a
right,
numbers game, right? So you literally are looking to convert 3 per 100. Um, and
right.
tell me if I'm breaking up at any point, because I'll just have
No, you're
to.
good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, it's a numbers game, and it's a brutal numbers game when you're doing it because everyone's kind of playing that game. So you're stepping on each other's toes. And often, I mean, it's happened to clients of mine where they're like, I called someone and I got them, but I'm sure that they talked to somebody else, but I just, they've talked to so many people they couldn't remember. And so they ended up working
Right,
with me. But it's like, that's what's happening is it's like kind of first come, like first one to grab the client and pull them into their process, right? And sort of get their problems solved. And everyone has a different problem, right? So
right,
and getting behind that and understanding that is what's going to make you good at the converting process, right? And so
right. So
when
yeah,
I
so when you're dealing with those internet style leads or more of those traditional, kind of leads that people think of, you're
yeah,
exactly right. I mean, you're dealing with a really long runway of you're trying, you're doing email, you're doing texting, you're trying to get on the phone, but honestly, it's going to take you on average, like what I think 7 attempts trying to call somebody before you even get the opportunity to speak to them, and then at that point, it's only the audio communication, right? They're getting the words and they're getting your tone of voice. They're not getting
right,
everything, right? And,
right,
and so,
exactly,
so that time frame when you're dealing with traditional leads is super long, which means most of your effort is just spent to try to get to that in-person meeting, right? So it's a lot of time, a lot of effort in order to get there. Whereas when we look at other methods, and again, I think of the best counterexample to this is still it's open houses, right? So when you look at an open house, you are immediately at the point where you have the best chance to build rapport and build a relationship. You're immediately there, right? They come in the door, they're in person. You get to have that conversation with a warm, live, breathing human being. And so the ability to turn that interaction into a relationship is just drastically better because all of those things that are stacked in your favor, right? You're not spending a bunch of time trying to call and get them to respond to you. You're starting by building the relationship. You're starting right then and there with a really great opportunity to have the time, to have the space, to have that conversation. Right? They're there. They're at the open house. Often they're not in a super big rush either. Right? They're there to look. So like there's a little bit of space to have a conversation. You're not interrupting them. They're there for you. Right? And
right.
so and it sounded a little bit robot-y again, but yeah, so when we're looking for methods to build our sphere, that's really one of the things that we want to do, right? Like ultimately building your sphere is getting that group of people who have a solid relationship with you and growing that list, just like James said. And so if we want to do that most effectively, then we want to have as much of our effort as possible be focused on that relationship building rather than just getting the opportunity to build a relationship, right? So
Right.
that's why we love open houses, for their, the ability to actually get in and build that relationship quickly. So I think we've got one more point, right? One
We
one more of
do.
our one more of our
Yeah.
do's and don'ts.
So the last point here is that we're going to want to look for something that's going to make us, that's going to bring in profit quickly, right? And so obviously, when we're deploying a strategy that's a paid strategy, we're going to be very conscious of this, and we're sort of going to
Right.
analyze and really be aware of that. But we the reason that we like the free strategies or the low cost strategies is because if you can get them to work, then everything else just becomes a bolt on to that, right?
Right.
So we want to do things that make money quickly because of that, right? So Zach, you want to talk to us about like what are some of the quick ways that you've seen in working with, your agent clients on making a quick turnaround on a closing? What's the sort of fast path to doing that?
Right. So really, I mean, this really comes down to, to target market selection, right? So you're looking to talk to the people who are most likely to be doing a deal soon, right? So when we're, in regards to building our sphere, right? Building your sphere is normally a long-term strategy, right? You build these relationships, you have them there, and then over the long run, it'll continue to pay off year after year after year. But if you're just getting started, if you're in the business right now, if you need to get paid right now to stay in business and essentially have that real estate business, then you want to have methods that allow you to do work that has a strong chance of actually finding you deals quickly in that process, on that path to building that sphere that will ultimately pay off in the long run, right? And
Right.
so when we're looking at this, there's a lot of things that can potentially pay off quickly at various levels, right? So anything that's getting you, fairly qualified, buyer or seller interest, people who are raising their hand and saying, I'm interested in buying a home, I'm interested in selling a home. Really, a lot of the methods that we've talked about can do that to a degree. Right? Like your Facebook ads, your Craigslist, your Zillow leads, all that stuff. It can get you those people, but you do have that long lead time on on generating that relationship, right? So it's not as optimal. You're having to spend a lot of money to do some of those, and so while you get a qualified person, it still takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time in order to actually find the deal. And then there, at the other end of the spectrum, things that don't work quickly, but still build your sphere effectively. That's where we're talking about, like, hey, getting involved at your church, getting involved in, at the country club, getting involved in your, children's PTA, and getting to know the other parents, that sort of thing. Those are things that will build your sphere, and they'll build them for cheap, and they'll build it effectively, but it's a long-term thing. It's not going to make you money right away, right? It's putting the effort in now to build that for the long term. And so there's really, as far as I'm aware, there's only one thing that I've seen that sort of checks all the other boxes of things that we've said, finds the right kind of people who are qualified, interested, and ready to do deals, but still lets you build that profitable sphere effectively. And that's open houses, right? Like, that's one of the few ways where you get that relationship quickly. The people that come to the open houses are drastically more likely to be doing a deal quickly. So I don't know of another method that works as effectively at that process as open houses. So when we're talking about, the chance to make money quickly, we're looking at, I want to be able to put in effort today. I want the chances of getting paid quickly to be there, and then in the long run, yes, I'm still building my sphere, and I'm building it with the right people. So yeah, open houses to me really is the thing that kind of gets the best of both worlds. It's like the best aspects of networking with friends and family, and like building those relationships, and the best aspects of being able to go after a qualified group of people who are looking to buy or sell homes. But you get that that happy blend, that Venn diagram right in the middle. The only
Right.
thing that I've ever seen that does that is open houses.
Right, and I think it makes me think of what we talked about last week, Zach, with the analogy of diverting the stream of water in a river of that's already flowing, versus
Right,
like taking a bucket and just filling it up in an already flowing stream, right? So
right,
this is what we're essentially doing in with open houses, right? Is getting into the
right,
stream quickly instead
right,
of doing all that, extra steps to really that are unnecessary. Once we kind of take a step
right,
back and look at it, it's kind of silly all of the stuff that we do and all the shiny objects that we grab onto just that are, oh,
right,
this messenger bot or this funnel is going to change everything, and or where do I even start? I'm new to this and I have no idea about anything digital marketing. So what do I do? Well, let's
Right.
start one step at a time and do the thing that's going to generate you the result. So what we should do is we should pivot into, we're doing a training on this, right, Zach? So we want to
Right.
give the link to that. I'm going to go ahead and drop into the show in the comments, as well as just the show lower third there. So you can go to openhouseworkshop.com. We have a workshop that we're doing tomorrow. And we're going to talk about our process and how this works, how our agents are having success deploying this strategy. So, Zach, do you have any thoughts on this? And like you've been part of, you sort of witnessing the transformation of some of these agents and sort of like
Right.
on this methodology. What we're going to be teaching tomorrow is very specific to a part of the process that gets the result that we're getting the feedback from agents like, oh my gosh,
Right.
this one thing, if I do it, then it changes everything at my open house. So you want to be
Right.
there. You don't want to miss it. Is there any other reason why you don't want to miss it, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as we just discussed in this episode, right? Like, ultimately, as a real estate agent, I think for 99% of real estate agents, the long-term play for your business is definitely to get your sphere to a point where you could just ride that wave of deals and referrals that come out of the people who already know, like, and trust you. And if you want to learn how to do that, the most effective way, our favorite method, is open houses, and we're going to give you really clear, tactical, actionable information about how you can start doing open houses effectively. Now, I know people listening to this, they may not be familiar with us, they may not know how we do workshops, how we do webinars, like this kind of thing. And so, one thing I want to make really clear: it is incredibly important to us that everybody who shows up for a workshop, for a webinar, that they walk away with something that they can take and implement and get value in their business just by showing up.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's not just some big pitch fest where you're going to be getting sold to the whole time or whatever. You're going to walk away with a meaningful transformation in your business that allows you to implement and plug this system into your own business and start getting results. We do that in hopes, obviously, of the opportunity that you want to consider working with us on our coaching and using our tools. But we care very much about making sure that we're going to get you a result, get you action, get you into action, and get you a meaningful progress in your business. So I'd encourage people to show up. It's going to be worth your time. I stake my own professional reputation on that, right? So definitely show up. It's going to be great information. And then just one other thing that I'd like to note: we're doing a workshop tomorrow. If people happen to be watching this in the future, we use this link regardless of when the workshop is. So if we've got a workshop coming up, you're going to be able to find it at that link, even if you have to miss the one tomorrow. I don't know if we're doing another one for sure, but if you check this out in the future, that's where you're going to be able to find the workshop that's going on at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're still watching this, click that link or just type it in www.openhouseworkshop.com and go ahead and sign up for the workshop. We'll be thrilled to see you on and excited to really share the biggest impactful step of the process that we have. It's a 9-step process, and this one step is making all the difference. And agents like who are seasoned, veteran agents, one was quoted as saying, I don't go for gimmicks, and this is not that. So, this is the thing that ultimately it's working. If you take it and run with it, you're gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna notice results right away and see a difference. So show up. It's
Absolutely.
at noon tomorrow, and we'll see you then. So, as far as if you're still watching, also please like and subscribe so that you get future notifications. And thanks for watching. You got anything else? Any closing thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, no, I think just on the note for the workshop, if you have done workshops in the past and struggled, to really drive results from them, what we're going to be showing you on the workshop is definitely a way to unlock that. If you've ever dealt with that scenario of having a bunch of people come through, but you weren't able to get them to actually become somebody that you generated a relationship with, become that real opportunity, we're going to be diving into that. Really important. And yeah, just like you said, we've got
Yeah.
tons more content coming out for you. So make sure Subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. Let the algorithms know that you're liking this stuff, and we'll get more people to see it. Helps us spread the message further and helps us help more people just like you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that sign off. And thanks for tuning in. Everyone, we'll see you next week, or we'll see you hopefully on the workshop tomorrow. All right. Signing off.
Bye.